Agribusiness brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
You're listening to Ag AM in Kansas. I'm Devin Stewart. There are new meat science research initiatives at K-State's Department of Animal Sciences and Industry. John Gonzalez is a member of the meat research team at Kansas State, and in a recent study they have explored the impact of commonly used feed supplementation programs on important aspects of pork quality.
Two projects that we have going on in the meat science section of the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry. What my group looks at is the actual biology of meat quality. And so right now we have two projects going on in the swine, on the swine side and in the beef cattle side. For the swine project, what we're looking at is the effect of macro minerals and increasing the response to commonly fed growth promotants for those animals. It was a very neat study, a lot of hard work, and what we looked at was we looked at the actual, signaling of growth in those animals. And so as we fed our macro mineral and our growth promotants to those animals, we went and actually looked at the effect on muscle hypertrophy or the increasing in size of muscles, and we looked at the molecular mechanisms of that. The other side of it is when those animals were ready for market, we harvested them here at the Kansas State University Meat Laboratory, and we took the actual product from it and looked at the effect of our treatments on shelf life. In addition to that, we also looked at the biology of the muscle or the muscle fiber types and the biochemistry of that muscle and what effect it had on shelf life. Just wrapped that up about a couple weeks ago, and now we're analyzing the data and doing the histology on those samples, and we hope to provide a link to the effect of those treatments on the biochemistry of the muscle and then what effect that has on shelf life. The good thing about the swine industry and the beef industry too is they're always looking for a better way to maximize their returns on their investment, and so two major concerns of meat quality. The first one would be actual color, and that's probably one of the biggest ones because most consumers will not buy a piece of meat if it's brown. Green, definitely they're not going to buy. And so some of these treatments will sometimes alter the rate at which that brown color develops. And so we wanted to make sure that our treatments aren't accelerating the discoloration pattern of these products that we're getting from these animals, because you can have the good side of having increased muscle growth, increased efficiency on the live side, but then you lose that in the supermarket. So we looked at that side. We also looked at tenderness because as most people would agree, tenderness is the #1 attribute that consumers evaluate when they determine whether they're having an enjoyable eating experience or not. So we looked at the effect of these treatments on the tenderness of the loin chops that originated from these animals. You know, if you are getting those bigger loin eyes and or bigger rib eyes, you are being able to feed more people because you're increasing the muscling. The amount of muscle that you increase equals the amount of more sellable type products. So you're improving your efficiency there. So when you're talking about, I guess, your impact on Mother Earth and that type of thing, sustainability, these are actually good technologies that we're researching because we're being able to, increase the efficiency of these animals on the live side, so the amount of grain they take in. But then we're also being able to increase the amount of sellable products, so we are able to feed more consumers and more people.
Agribusiness brought to you by Tarwater Farm and Home. Come on by, we'll treat you like family.
Welcome back to Ag AM in Kansas. We are here with John Gonzalez discussing recent meat science research at Kansas State.
The real neat one about the beef study that we have coming through here is we have basically two treatment groups. One, because a lot of consumers right now are skeptical of, and it kind of goes back to your sustainability, efficiency type question. But a lot of consumers sometimes feel that we should go back to the old days where we don't have, implants, growth promotants of any kind because of their fear of, residues or whatever else their fears are. And so we ran a study, or we're wrapping up a study where we're comparing two types of growth technologies, or not technologies, or growth patterns or management strategies, it would be a better way of saying it. And we're doing no implant, no growth promotants, which would be beta agonists, and then the other one we're doing the implants and the beta agonists, and looking at the actual efficiency of those animals, which is another researcher in the department's looking at that side. But then what we're looking at is the meat quality side, which is quite interesting to me. We're looking once again at the biochemistry of the muscle, what effect that has on shelf life. We're looking at tenderness. Other things we're looking at is trying to explain, because sometimes when you use growth technologies, one of the problems is you have a decrease in tenderness, and so once again tenderness is the number one thing. So we're trying to figure out why that's happening, and so we're doing a couple of muscle, looking at the biology of the muscle and what's going on in there and what's affecting the tenderness of these, and that's probably what I'm the most excited about. My master's student and I are putting together a grant, and we're going to run the project anyways, but we're going to try to explain what those growth promotants do and how they're affecting tenderness, and then once we figure out what the problems are, what the mechanisms are, we can actually go in there and try to mitigate those with other strategies and feeding regimens or whatever else we can think of. Usually everything involves freezing for us. You know, if it's a, let's say we're doing a shelf life study or even a tenderness type study, cut individual steaks into, you know, whatever treatments we're going to have. And one of the things we're looking at is the actual effect of aging these steaks and how that can affect tenderness. And so we put them in our individual bags, and then when we do the stuff for the muscle biology, we basically bring it up here, cut it into little itty bitty pieces, and that's one of the things that I think most of the meat scientists have trouble with. I always tell them I'm kind of a vulture, so I always need just a little bit of sample, so about 5 grams. So we'll cut little 5-gram samples to represent the amount of the distribution of the steak or chop or whatever we're looking at, and then we'll freeze them in tissue embedding medium and just rock hard freeze them, store them in -80, and then take them over there and cut razor thin sections so we can actually look at fiber type, any other protein of interest that would be in the muscle that we can find signals for. One of the things that I try to stress about my programs is, you know, we're trying to find the molecular mechanisms of growth, but then how that affects meat quality. But one of the big things that I try to stress to people that I talk to about the program is that once we explain the biology or understand the biology of what's going on in these animals or in the steak or whatever you're looking at, you can then go manipulate it to either fix problems that you have, let's say tenderness, or you can also improve upon what's been built in the past of, you know, animal science historical research. So that's kind of the goal of my program.
With Ag AM in Kansas, I'm Devin Stewart.